All right, so sexual reproduction, that is the purpose of that. That's why the desire is so strong. It's not just in people. If you've ever watched the animal videos and stuff, they go to extraordinary lengths to try to mate, life-threatening lengths. And, the individual organism doesn't need this. You can go, believe it or not, girls, your boyfriends will probably tell you something different, but you can go your whole life without reproducing and be as healthy as anybody else. So it's just the only purpose it serves is to provide your population with genetic diversity. Okay. Natural selection, of course, is a natural process. It's the way things adapt to their environment. But when you throw in anthropogenic activity, it causes another problem. Just like the ecological pyramid was the natural way that ecosystems are set up, but when we throw toxins in there, we get biomagnification, and it's a similar idea in that respect. In this case, it is the use of pesticides and antibiotics, and the way organisms through natural selection deal with that causes problems. Okay, because we use these things to kill things, right? Pesticides and antibiotics. Bugs and weeds for pesticides and bacteria for antibiotics. So that is an environmental change to their population when we spray them or swallow them or inject them or whatever to that population of either the pests or the bacteria. So within that population, a lot of times you will have part of those organisms that are resistant. They have some adaptation. With insects, a lot of times, some insects, their exoskeleton is thicker than others. So that means that the pesticide's not going to penetrate as well into their bodies. With antibiotics, bacteria have the ability to build many different enzymes, and a lot of times they end up producing an enzyme that will break down that antibiotic. So that's one of the ways that the bacteria tend to do that. And they all tend to do that. Eventually, at some point, some members of that population will, no matter what kind of antibiotics we build, the bacteria will find a way to build something to take it apart. It's kind of scary when you think about it. Now, in the case of pesticides, what this means for farmers is that when they treat the pest population one time, when they spray your crops one time, they're going to knock back, maybe 90% of those whatever it is they're spraying. But the 10% that's left behind, their numbers, first of all, are going to expand more rapidly because they don't have the competition of their other members of the population. You just sprayed them and killed them. And then second of all, they're also going to reproduce now and pass that resistance on to their offspring if it's a heritable trait. And therefore, next time the farmer comes out and you've got a whole population, they're all going to be pesticide resistant. So they have to either switch pesticides or use more. But usually when they spray the first time, they're at the legal limit. It's against federal law to not follow the label directions on pesticides. You can see that if you buy like weed killer at the store or something like that, it'll say that on the back of it. And so they will, one of the practices is to have just a rotation of different pesticides that they use each year. So they hit them with something different the next year. This is called a pesticide treadmill. Just kind of keep churning it out, hit them again with something different next time, and you go round and round and round. Eventually come back to the last one because there's only so many. Now, much more ominous is the production of antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria. Okay, this is a major problem. Epidemiologists, those people that study the spread of diseases, predict that within your lifetime, that there's going to be a super virus, super bug, in this case bacteria, but it has to be a super bacteria, that is going to spread around the world and it's going to be antibiotic resistant. We haven't had that yet. We haven't had a pandemic. Last time we really had a pandemic was the Spanish flu in it was 1920s, I think, late 1920s. But they, in this case, the reason why it would be such a problem is in developing nations, because a lot of times when you get an antibiotic-resistant bacteria, they can treat it with stronger and different antibiotics, but a lot of times those antibiotics are dangerous themselves, and you have to do it under hospital supervision with IVs and in very controlled conditions. These things, of course, are not that available in developing countries. So there's a lot of potential for these things to spread out of control in developing nations, and even in a developed nation where people don't want to, they'll brush it off and say, I'll just take some antibiotics or whatever, and that'll take care of it. One such strain that is one that you might recognize is MRSA, also known as MRSA. MRSA me, I got MRSA. Well, you probably do have the SA part of it. I guarantee you. Darn it. See how many of you guys can remember. So, Hannah, since you thought that was so funny, give me one of those words.
Yeah.
Anybody? Resistant. Thank you. Very good. Resistant. Common. That one's probably one that you won't know, so I'll get that was a common bacteria. Starts with an S. ST. You hear this a lot of times. Staph. Staph is exactly right, which is short for Staphylococcus.
Aureus?
Very good.
And this thing is methicillin, right?
That is correct.
Damn.
Cole had already said that, so calm down. But that's good for both of you guys that you know that. Methicillin, which of course is a type of penicillin. So Staph aureus is a common bacteria that everybody has on their skin. Okay, and it oftentimes will cause pimples or boils. All right, normal conditions it is not harmful. It can be life-threatening, like any bacteria, if it gets into and reproduces inside your bloodstream. That's a condition called sepsis. When you get that, so it's rare that happens, but occasionally it does. Normally, that happens. You're going to get a fever and everything, and take the doctor. They're going to look at it, and they'll give you antibiotic to treat that. Oftentimes, methicillin. Okay. However, since this is not uncommon, and also since dermatologists used to make a practice of prescribing daily dosages of methicillin to fight this and other acne-producing bacteria, there has been a resistant strain. That if you get this, it can be bad if you get like in a boil or something like that, but they'll still treat it topically and just hope that it heals up on its own. If you get this in your bloodstream, you got a problem. And what they'll do is that once they determine it's MRSA, they will have to go ahead and put you on vancomycin, probably, which is a very strong antibiotic. They'll keep you in the hospital, and they'll, it's really actually the vancomycin itself is the main reason why they keep you in the hospital to monitor you. And of course, if the sepsis goes out of control, that's going to be bad too. But so that's MRSA. That is a antibiotic-resistant bacteria. It got that way through natural selection, through somehow one part variety of this bacteria learned how to break this stuff down. Its numbers have grown because of people using that methicillin and killing off its fellow non-resistant Staph aureus bacteria, and therefore making them more popular. Now this is why, by the way, you see when you take antibiotics, when you take antibiotics, it'll tell you, it'll specify to take all of them. Because a lot of times what will happen is you'll take a few for 3 or 4 days, it'll knock out most of the bacteria, and you'll feel better. So be like, all right, I don't want to keep taking this. I don't want to take this for 2 weeks. And you stop taking it. Well, what's happened is it's knocked out the resistant ones, the ones that are resistant at least at a lower exposure, and it's left those that need more time to be killed in your body. And so next time, you might not be so lucky. That one, the resistant one, might expand and have problems. Chris, you got it.
Is that all a staph infection? Like, because you get it from spores and stuff like that?
Well, like I said, staph is on your skin. So if you cut yourself, for example, it can push it in there and it can start to grow under your skin, and that's when you'll get like sores and it look like big pimples a lot of times. That's oftentimes what happens there. Usually that's as far as it goes, but every once in a while it's under your skin, you got blood flow going on there, it gets into your bloodstream, and if it doesn't get eaten up by your immune system, it has a chance to start dividing and eating the your nutrients and your red blood cells and stuff. That, of course, is when you can have a big health problem that comes from that. Any questions about natural selection, pesticide resistance, antibiotic resistance, all that stuff? Sex? I don't want to answer your questions about sex, but why it's there, that's why.